This story began about 100 years ago, when a Californian farmer discovered a very valuable crop: almonds. Almonds' virtues are now praised by dietitians around the world. Today, Californian almonds are harvested, processed, and distributed all over the globe. In fact, 80% of all the almonds in the world come from the Golden State.
We're currently shipping to over 90 countries from Blue Diamond, and the list is growing.
Over the past 10 years, the almond market has quadrupled. It is now approaching $5 billion per year. So much so that almonds are outgrowing grapes as the crop of choice. Over 6,500 farms are now producing almonds. That expansion is sucking up the state's water resources and is heavily dependent on bees, some of the most fragile insects on the planet. Some say the industry is digging its own grave, and Californians are paying the price.
The challenges I talk about can be dubbed as victims of our own success.
It has become almost a tug of war between the people and the almonds.
Ripon, Northern California, the self-proclaimed almond capital of the world. Every February, locals take part in the Almond Blossom Festival to celebrate spring and the local industry. Brent Boersma was born and raised here. He is a third-generation grower. His family started growing almonds in the 1930s.
The story goes that my grandfather moved here, was doing cattle and livestock and other types of farming.
A salesman came by with some almond trees. His grandfather bought some.
My dad said as he paid 25 cents a tree planted in the ground at that time, and they came in and put them in, and the rest is history, I guess.
Over the years, Northern California proved to be ideal for this Mediterranean crop.
It's just a very unique climate here that has some very specific factors that are allowing this region to grow. And you can grow them other places, but I just don't know that it's going to be a viable growing.
But the southern part of the San Joaquin Valley is a desert. Here, the state government invested heavily to irrigate the soil. As the almond industry grew, bigger farms started pumping more and more water from the ground to sustain their orchards. Along Route 46, oil and natural gas rigs give way to almond orchards as far as the eye can see. Industry giants such as Paramount chose this location to build their empires. Within 20 years, Paramount has become the biggest single almond grower in the world. Faced with uncertain water access, especially in times of drought, Paramount took drastic measures. The company supplies its water via underground tanks purchased from the state of California. In an area where water shortages are a reality, where riverbeds began to dry out long ago, Californians are outraged.
At the height of the drought, the water that's in that bank is being used to water almonds. And the people where I live, we were on the verge of running out of water completely. It just doesn't seem right to me.
Carolee Krieger is angry that the state government authorized the sale of public water to industry giants.
I think the state needs to know what it's managing, first and foremost, and it needs to know how much it's promised. And then it needs to figure out how to bridge that gap so that what's there is actually real water and not paper water.
she blames the new growers for using 10% of the state's water resources. Her reasoning is simple. Growing almonds requires way more water than the traditional crops cultivated in the valley. To make things worse, almond trees, as opposed to other crops, need to be kept alive in times of drought.
The consequences of growing a crop like almonds in a desert, it comes home and it's going to affect a lot more than just their profits. It's going to affect all of us.
The Almond Board of California, the agency behind the rising popularity of almonds, maintains that growers shouldn't be blamed for what is essentially a management issue.
Water has always been a very important issue in California.
Bob Curtis is the Associate Director for Agricultural Affairs.
The people who grow almonds are realists. They know that this is the cards that I've been dealt and I'm going to manage them the best way I can.
Almond growers all over the state have everything to lose should the drought persist. If their trees die, it will take years for new trees to produce again.
We're into the fourth year. There's already some ramifications of this, that crops are being fallowed because of this drought. And so the longer this goes on, the more of that we're going to see.
In the last 100 years, the production area increased from a few thousand to almost 800,000 hectares. This growth has led yet to another challenge for the industry. There aren't enough bees in California to pollinate all the almond trees. Each February, beekeepers from all over the US send 2 million beehives to pollinate the almond orchards. This is the largest operation of its kind in the world.
And this supply comes from all over the United States. Florida, Maine, the East Coast, Texas.
Beekeeper Raymond Marquette has come here for more than 20 years.
With all the bees coming into California during almond bloom, the diseases get spread around from hive to hive because there's a lot of different beekeepers in the same grove. And so if there's any bee disease, it's likely to be spread in the almond groves. Without bees, the almonds wouldn't be a profitable crop. So they have to have bees to pollinate the crop.
The bees will spend the entire month pollinating millions of almond trees. The stakes are high. With the decline of bee colonies, hives have become more expensive. And since the bees are fragile, producers must limit the application of pesticides that could kill them.
If I can't trust the bees in my orchard, that doesn't help me sleep at night. Having that relationship with the beekeeper, in the midst of also on my side, making sure I'm not doing anything to harm that relationship with my beekeeper on the growing side is important.
Some growers are working on long-term solutions to deal with this new reality. Beekeepers like Matt Allen are called in to raise solitary bees that are not usually used for pollination.
Inside each of these is a live bee.
These local bees, which normally hibernate in winter, are stimulated to wake up just in time for pollination.
They are superb pollinators, a lot of these. We work particularly with the blue orchard bee, which is very well suited for working in almonds.
Elsewhere, researchers are looking at engineering self-pollinating trees.
It won't eliminate our need for bees, but it's going to reduce our reliance on bees, and we're guessing that our requirement will be reduced from, say, for instance, 2 hives per acre down to perhaps a hive or a half a hive per acre.
Various solutions to a crucial stage. A few months later, the flowers in the orchards will have turned into almonds ready for harvest. half of California's growers send their harvest to Blue Diamond, a co-op and the largest processing plant of its kind. Plant manager Darrell Nelson has seen firsthand the effect of water and bee shortages on the price of almonds.
Folks are not historically used to paying the price that they're paying today, but the market is still growing. Folks are still buying them for the healthy choice.
Faced with the challenges of the industry, the cooperative decided to promote sustainable practices. It now pays more for product quality rather than quantity.
What we do is we take a continuous sample of the product delivered by the grower, and that's sent up to trained quality control inspectors, and then the farmers are paid by having fewer defects and more good almonds.
This is the big problem, water.
In recent years, the Almond Board of California has made significant investments to help producers like Brent adopt sustainable practices. The irrigation techniques from his father's days are now giving way to more modern technology, with micro sprinklers that directly target the roots of the trees, and a high-tech system calculating the needs for water with extra precision.
Instead of just saying, we're going to apply 2 inches, which is kind of your base rate of applied water, well, times a year you don't need 2 inches. And this tool helps me see that because you can see what the trees are taking up. And obviously when it's hotter, they're taking up more.
Measures that could help the industry to survive its rapid growth, a growth that many believe has already reached its peak.
Obviously, even though we will grow, the sky is not the limit. There are finite resources, and that gets back to sustainability.
And Californians all have a stake in making sure the industry can become more sustainable.
We're at a very defining moment in California's history dealing with water right now. We could solve the problem because there is enough water in California. We just have to dole it out differently and think of it differently.
What I do know, being in a family operation over the years, is that doesn't always last. Even now, my dad still is cautioning, that prices change, markets change. I mean, you can't hang your hat on that forever. That's the way business goes.
Brent Boersma is not fooling himself. The popularity of almonds might not last forever, but for now, it's important not to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. For The National, I'm Francis Plord in Ripon, California.